Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And you are listening to us on WQEE, home of Southern Sports, 99.1 FM, the key out of Noonan, Georgia. This is episode 740, just in case you are keeping score at home. And I'm also on Facebook and YouTube Live. Go and like and subscribe to the Facebook page. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is where all the content is going to be displayed. As you can see behind me, I do have the oh-so-famous backdrop of Columbus. This is starting to become a new idea that I've been implementing in the show. You can't tell exactly where I'm at. I could be at the gym using the Wi-Fi. I could be at work. I could be at home with my plain white background behind me. Still working on trying to get a green screen and trying to build my audience. I tell you, the show that I had last night with 92.9 The Game's Caleb Johnson was absolutely popular. I think you guys liked my Columbus background, so I think I'm going to continue utilizing it. I'm here on Facebook Live early, actually the time slot that I normally have this show on WQEE, because I've got a busy Thursday starting with Sports Visions. Thrift Behringer has asked me to come on Sports Visions today as DJ Jones is out of town. He's still going to be on the show, and we are going to chop it up, talk about everything that's going on in high school playoffs when it comes to the GHSA, the AHSAA, as this is playoff season, and we are absolutely excited. I will be on Sports Visions with Thrift Behringer today from 4 to about 5:30 on Smooth R&B 92.1 or the Sports Visions Radio Facebook page. And there's just so much to cover. We've got CVCC hoops tonight. The Lady Pirates are in action. I know that Robert Edmonds is going to do a great job as he's been calling CVCC games for Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And then Thrift and I, after the Sports Vision show is over, we are going to get into our cars and head across the river to Glenwood. That is where high school game day is going to be, as it is the AISA semifinals. Autauga Academy taking on Glenwood. The winner of that game will play in the state championship for the AISA Class 3 in Montgomery, Alabama. But we've got a great show for you. Like I mentioned, this is a local show to Columbus. I'm going to talk about everything local, including the River Dragons. They lose their first game of the season. The Columbus State soccer team is in the semifinals in the Peach Belt Conference, taking on a very familiar foe. And then I'm also going to talk about Lagrange College getting a big win over Birmingham Southern in basketball. And as high school basketball is approaching, there's a team that I want to give a shout out to. They did get a big win, and I want to talk about that. I mean, it's hard to actually get into all the high school games, especially since the season's just started. But once football season is over, we are going to treat high school basketball like it's high school football. Maybe even have some high school game days. Going to have a scoreboard show when it comes to high school basketball. It is just going to be absolutely entertaining. You might want to stick around for that. But let's go ahead and start the show. As I watched this on YouTube Live, Tom Callahan does a phenomenal job as the play-by-play announcer for the Columbus River Dragons. River Dragons fall to Baton Rouge 5-4. They were down 5-2 in this game, despite outshooting the Zydeco 53-28. The River Dragons suffered their first loss of the season. They are 3-1 on the year, despite Justin McDonald's 2 goals. I like the way that the River Dragons clawed their way back into this game, and they were within one possession of tying it, and they could have got a point. But the Zydeco, they're an expansion team. They've lost 3 times to the River Dragons. I think they've kind of figured out the style of play for the River Dragons, and they were able to get the win. You got to remember, starting the FPHL season, 6 games on the road, in a perfect world, you want to go 6-0. I mean, they had a hot start last year. It's just 1 loss. They will play the Zydeco 2 more times, Puck drop 8:30 tonight. You can catch it on the River Dragons YouTube channel, and Tom Callahan will be on the call. Just a reminder, the season opener for the River Dragons home game is next Friday at the Columbus Civic Center. That is November the 17th. They are taking on the Mississippi Seawolves. Single tickets are on sale, and you can get it at the Civic Center box office or go to rdragons.com for tickets. I'm excited about the Columbus River Dragons. It's always a great product, and the couple of River Dragons games that I went to that were playoff games, the atmosphere was absolutely electric, and I believe they have the most passionate fans. Out of all of our minor league sports teams in Columbus, the River Dragons have the most passionate fans. Yes, the Columbus Lions have passionate fans too. The Columbus Rapids, which don't exist anymore, they didn't really have a whole lot of fans because they were still trying to grow their brand. The Columbus Chattahoots, if you're a baseball fan, I mean, you're going to go out to historic Golden Park and see the Chattahoots. And athletic director for Calvary, Coach Steve Smith, did a great job as the manager. Now he's going to be the president of operations, the game day operations, and McClendon Hill is going to be the new manager for the Chattahoots. I can't wait to baseball season next year. But I am proud of all the professional sports teams in Columbus. And, I wish them all the best of luck. As far as the Columbus Rapids, they don't exist anymore. There is talks about a new professional indoor soccer team called Foundry FC out of the NISL in year 3. And I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue about anything about Foundry FC. And I have no interest in being their play-by-play announcer, and I'm here on the show setting the record straight. I do not have any interest. All my effort and energy is tied to Georgia Alabama Sports Live, and I just want to say that I am fully committed to Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Now, here's the caveat on that. If the NISL wants Georgia Alabama Sports Live to live stream Foundry FC games, they have got to pay the fee that normally we charge when we try to live stream some games. That's neither here or there. Let's go ahead and move on. Speaking of soccer, Columbus State Soccer, they win on Monday in the first round of the Peach Belt Conference Tournament at the Walden Soccer Complex 5-2 over Georgia College. Currently they are 11-4-1. Despite that slow start to start the season, they weren't able to host the Peach Belt semifinals and championship. That is going to be held by North Georgia up in Dahlonega. So they will take on a familiar foe. Flagler College, they're going to play them in the semifinals of the Peach Belt. Now, this is a team, they tied down in St. Augustine, 1-1. This is also a team they beat in the NCAA playoffs last year in dramatic fashion. Flagler is the defending Peach Belt Conference champions. This should be a good one as the CSU soccer team led by Coach Jay Entlich is trying to get a berth in the NCAA tournament and try to duplicate their Final Four appearance from last season. I had so much fun calling Columbus State soccer last year. And you can catch all that archived on the Peach Belt Network. Some of my most exciting calls was in that Elite Eight game against West Florida when they ended up winning the game and clinching a berth in the Final Four. I got so excited. See, I am a soccer guy. I do play-by-play for soccer. I think that the knock on me was I wasn't a soccer guy when I was hired by the Columbus Rapids to do play-by-play, which, by the way, we're approaching the 2-year anniversary that former Columbus Lions head coach and part owner of the Columbus Rapids gave me that call and asked me if I wanted to be the play-by-play announcer for the Columbus Rapids. It really jump-started my broadcast career because I never would have got discovered if I wasn't the voice of the Columbus Rapids. I miss it. It was 2 great years, and all good things have to come to an end, and I enjoyed having Columbus Rapids players on my podcast. I enjoyed doing the coaches show. I enjoyed doing the live show at Ivy. It was so much fun, but with Foundry FC, I'm not going to be able to do any of that. It would take up too much of my time, and they've got to pay me. I'm coming out to say look, I don't know if Andrew Haynes or Mary Ellen Rogers, I don't know if they watch my show, but because I'm completely committed to Georgia Alabama Sports Live, I would love to see an up-and-coming broadcaster become the voice of Foundry FC. And I talked to the commissioner of the NISL, Gary Tufford, and I told him, look, I'm not going to be able to commit to being an announcer, but if there's an up-and-coming broadcaster, I can give them all the information that they need as far as the league. Because I was invested in not only the league, the Columbus Rapids for 2 years, so... We're going to go ahead and move on here on the show. Congratulations to the Lagrange College Panthers getting the 98-85 win over the Birmingham Southern Panthers. I remember them when they were at NAIA school. Back when I was a student at Freed-Hardeman University, I called a road game down in Birmingham, Alabama when Freed-Hardeman took on Birmingham Southern. And now Birmingham Southern, one of the top teams in NCAA Division III. Despite Cam Lyons had 21 points in the win for the Panthers. It was Caleb Green who had 33 points for the Birmingham Southern Panthers. LaGrange is 1-0 on the season. I've got to get to Mariotti Gymnasium. I know that place packs out. One of the former guests I had on the show regularly talking about LaGrange College was Antoine Prather, and he is been there with all the teams for LaGrange College and has seen that atmosphere. And I'd love to get him back on the show again. I know that he's got such a busy schedule, but someday I will try to get him on the schedule. All right, I can't get into all the high school games. We do have some big high school games coming up this weekend. We've got Columbus taking on Kendrick. Northside is hosting Southwest Christian, Atlanta Christian, Southwest Atlanta Christian. You got Hardaway taking on Monday's Mill. Congratulations to the Russell County Warriors. I used to be their public address announcer. They were featured on media days on Sunday, led by Coach Ronnie Battle, the former Auburn point guard. They've got great players like Timothy Littleton and Malachi Dix, TJ Upshaw. You've got just great players. They get the 63-47 win over Opelika. And their next game, get ready for this. They play the defending 5A champions that went undefeated last year, the Valley Rams, up in Valley, Alabama. That is going to be a game that's going to be worth the price of admission. All right, we had a big action in the NBA. See, switching gears. The Hawks were not in action last night, but they will be in action against the Orlando Magic for the New Mexico City game. Both teams are 4-3. You know, I had Caleb Johnson on the show yesterday, and we talked about the maturation process of the Atlanta Hawks. Because when Quinn Snyder came in as the full-time head coach this season, that his focus was for the Hawks to play defense, which is very important because they can get defensive stops. It's not about trying to outscore that other team, because sometimes you're going to have a cold night shooting, like Trae Young sometimes has, DeJounte Murray. DeAndre Hunter is not consistent every night. The Hawks are 4-3, and I like to see the Atlanta Hawks become more improved. And the goal this year, I'm not saying get to the Eastern Conference Finals, at least get to the second round. Look, in the last, I would say 15 years, since I started following the Hawks back in 2006 when I moved to Atlanta, we've been spoiled. The Atlanta Hawks have reached 2 Eastern Conference Finals. They never did that under Dominique. They never did that in the history of their franchise. And then they had that incredible playoff run from 2008 all the way to 2017. And you can't take that away from the Atlanta Hawks. They weren't exactly a championship team yet. What is it going to take for them to hoist the Larry O'Brien Trophy and have a parade in downtown Peachtree State? Peachtree Drive, whatever the parade is in Atlanta. What is it going to take? it's going to take a valiant effort, and they're going to have to get that elite superstar. One of these players is going to have to step up. I think Jalen Johnson has really shown progress. He could really be a superstar. We were hoping, and the jury's still out on DeAndre Hunter, I was hoping that Taurean Prince was going to be that guy, that two-way player when they drafted him. Remember, they got rid of Jeff Teague to get Taurean Prince. John Collins, he was a max player. I liked when they drafted him. He was a double-double player, but he had to go because he was too expensive. Okay, you got rid of John Collins. What are you going to do now? Can Sadiq Bey be that player that can step up? So much action. We do have the Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Indiana Pacers tonight as well on NBA TV. So last night in the association, we had some pretty good games, including the Denver Nuggets beating the Warriors 108-105. The Sacramento Kings, they finally get a win as they beat the Portland Trailblazers in overtime. Looking at the landscape of the NBA, it's still early. But how about the Philadelphia 76ers? The city of brotherly love is on a roll. You know, you had the Phillies making it to the World Series. The Philadelphia Union's one of the top teams in the MLS. The Eagles making it to the Super Bowl. Well, the Phillies didn't make the World Series this year, but last year. And the 76ers are 6-1. They have the best record in the Eastern Conference, and that is without James Harden. I think that the Sixers have won this trade. The Milwaukee Bucks starting to get their groove. I mean, they've won 3 straight. And then the Boston Celtics 5-2. So there's not a surprise at the top of the East. Indiana's 5-3. Don't underestimate the Indiana Pacers. I like Tyrese Halliburton and Benedict Mathurin. They've got a very young nucleus of players. And the Hawks are one of the teams right now in the Eastern Conference that you could fight for a playoff push. Disappointing teams in the East. Well, you know, the Cleveland Cavaliers 3-5. I thought that they would be at least a top 3 team, especially with Evan Mobley being one of the top centers in the NBA. Looking over at the West, I mean, no surprise. The Denver Nuggets are 8-1. They are the defending champs, and I would not be shocked if they go back-to-back. Big disappointment. The Lakers 3-5. Yeah, I know it's early. It is early. The Memphis Grizzlies, which they posted something on social media that single game tickets at FedEx Forum were like $4. I mean, when I lived in Memphis, I mean, we went to Grizzlies games. I mean, at $4. I mean, yeah, I was sitting up in the nosebleed section, and I remember going to Memphis Grizzlies games when they were still playing at the Pyramid. But I can't believe how far the Grizzlies have fallen off, because they were supposed to be a well-rounded team even without Ja Morant. All these pieces like Marcus Smart, it's not working. They do miss the physicality and the toughness of Dylan Brooks. Desmond Bane. Where's Desmond Bane? Where's Jaren Jackson? I know that Steven Adams is out for the year, but I mean, what is going on with the Memphis Grizzlies? The Phoenix Suns. I know they don't have Bradley Beal back, but 4-4. I mean, I thought they would have a much better record. I mean, I'm not shocked that the Minnesota Timberwolves, maybe they finally figured it out, 5-2. And really, one of those losses was to the Atlanta Hawks, and they were up big in that game. We have got such an incredible weekend of sports. We've got high school playoffs. Don't forget that Thrip Behringer and I will be at the Swamp today on Georgia Alabama Sports Live for high school game day, as we will get into all of the playoff matchups, and I will try to air that portion of the broadcast on tomorrow's show. As usually Fridays, I have my high school football scoreboard show, so that will be treated as that. And we're just going to wrap up everything that's going on in the world of sports. College football, Georgia taking on Ole Miss. This is a huge game. I'm talking huge. You got Lane Kiffin going up against Kirby Smart. And Auburn is on the road in Fayetteville, Arkansas, taking on the Razorbacks. They win that game. They're bowl eligible in Hugh Freeze's first year. I think Alabama, I think they should have no problem against Kentucky on the road. I know it's a road game, but Alabama's hitting their stride. Here's a game that normally this would be like a top 10 matchup, really a top 10 matchup 10 years ago. Florida and LSU. Florida could go 5-5 if they lose to LSU. And then they play Missouri and Florida State. You know that Florida could miss out on a bowl game. I cannot believe how far Florida has fallen. And I thought that Florida was going to be an improved team with Graham Mertz and some of the pieces they have. Ricky Pearsall is a pretty good receiver. Trevor Etienne. They've got some good skill players. They just need to build up that depth, get some top 5 recruiting classes, and Florida can get back to the days of Urban Meyer. I watched that Netflix documentary. I know how good Florida can be. And I think that Billy Napier, I would give him another year. I think that he is a good coach, and just with a couple of more recruits, he could turn Florida around. I mean, maybe you got to clean house. Maybe get rid of some of the coordinators, because I still like Billy Napier as a coach. You got Mississippi State taking on Texas A&M. I mean, 5-4. Texas A&M's 5-4. Has Jimbo Fisher, has he underachieved? And Tennessee taking on Missouri. That is the 3:30 CBS game. I kind of was hoping that Ole Miss and Georgia would be the 3:30 CBS game, but that is going to be wild at Sanford Stadium at night, 7 o'clock on ESPN. Now let's go over to the ACC. As Georgia Tech, 5-4, taking on the 5-4 Clemson Tigers. This is a rivalry game. It's always been a one-sided game for the past 10 years. Even when Paul Johnson was running that triple option, Dabo Swinney was building a powerhouse at Clemson, and now Clemson is back to being Clemson. They're not quite the level of a national champion. They won 2 national championships. It seems like they would get player after player from the NFL. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, I mean, you name it. Miami, Florida State, I used to love this rivalry in the 90s. With Florida State's wide right, wide left. It's a great rivalry. If anybody can play spoiler and ruin Florida State's hopes at a college football playoff, it is the Miami Hurricanes. I still am not 100% sold on Mario Cristobal and some of his decision-making as a coach. Still can't get over him not taking a knee against Georgia Tech. But you also have Duke and North Carolina. Great football matchup. It's also a great basketball matchup. And North Carolina 7-2, Duke 6-3 tonight in Louisville. All eyes are going to be on Virginia and Louisville, and Troup County's Jamari Thrash starting to become one of the top wide receivers in the ACC. He is incredible. I can't wait to see that. Boston College 6-3. They're going to a bowl game. Maybe that loss that Georgia Tech suffered against Boston College, maybe it wasn't so bad, because Boston College is starting to look good, and Virginia Tech is 4-5. They need some help if they want to get back to a bowl game. NFL, the Atlanta Falcons are taking on the Arizona Cardinals down in Arizona, and Kyler Murray will get the start. Taylor Heineke is going to be the starter for the Atlanta Falcons. Something's got to give. The Atlanta Falcons have got to find a way to get off the mat and utilize Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts the way it should. And a lot of fans are questioning Coach Arthur Smith's play calling. I would not be shocked if the Arizona Cardinals end up getting the win over the Atlanta Falcons. The Thursday night game tonight, oh my. The Chicago Bears taking on the Carolina Panthers. I mean, they need to have flex scheduling for these Thursday night games too. Really, if you're playing on a Thursday night, you need to be moved to Sunday and get a marquee game in here. They need to have flex scheduling, because this is absolutely awful. I cannot believe they have this game for Thursday night. And I'm telling you, these Prime subscribers, they're probably just like, what did I pay for? All right, some of the other games, the Colts and the Patriots in Germany for that game, 9:30 kickoff in the morning. Texans taking on the Bengals. The Bengals are the hottest team in the NFL right now. Packers and Steelers, I like that one. The Titans and the Buccaneers, both teams on the decline. Saints and the Vikings, both teams are kind of on the uppity up. And the Vikings, now with Josh Dobbs in there, he's the quarterback. He's got a full week of practice, and Justin Jefferson is coming back. I don't know if he's going to play in this game, but anytime the Saints play the Vikings, I think of that miracle in Minneapolis. And, you know, I know the Saints can't ever forget that as well. 49ers going down to Jacksonville to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have some thoughts about this game. 49ers off a bye. They have lost 3 straight. Deebo Samuel will be back. I don't know if Trent Williams is going to be back. This could be a game where the 49ers show, hey, we're still one of the top teams in the NFL. The Jaguars, it's a nice story. They're 6-2. Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback. I think the 49ers have slightly a little bit better players than Jacksonville. And I think there's going to be probably 70% 49ers fans down in Jacksonville. Now, I'm not going. I would love to go stay with my brother-in-law and go see that game. But just with everything going on with work and everything, normally this is a game I would pencil in on the schedule and I would say, I'm taking the family. We're going to go down to Jacksonville and spend a weekend with the family. But I will be watching on TV, and hopefully the 49ers can get a big win. Lions and Chargers. Chargers on a short week. They got the big win over New York on Monday night. They're 4-4. They have an opportunity to turn the corner in a very talented team. Brandon Staley is one of those coaches that's on the hot seat. The Lions are a 6-2. I mean, they lost to the Seahawks and the Ravens. The Lions are one of the top teams in the NFL. I know that when they took on Seattle and Baltimore, they just could not get the job done. Baltimore just punched them in the mouth. Seattle was an overtime loss, there. And then you got the Jets taking on the Raiders on Sunday Night Football. I think the Raiders get the win here, and Antonio Pierce becomes 2-0 as an interim head coach. If he continues winning with the Las Vegas Raiders, you give him the job. Don't do what you did to the interim coaches before. Pisarcik, I can't remember his name, but he should have got the job, and then they went to try to get the big splash, getting Josh McDaniels. Same with letting Jack Del Rio go, and then end up hiring John Gruden. I mean, come on. Give it to the interim guy because he deserves it. Giants and Cowboys. I really am impressed with the Cowboys. I feel kind of bad that I did not get Gabe Reynolds on this week to talk about that game against the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, there's no such thing as a moral victory. But the Cowboys, to be within one possession in Philly, one of the best teams in the NFL. And by the way, the Philadelphia Eagles are on a bye this week. They'll have a big game next week. I'll talk about that on next week's show. The Dallas Cowboys are actually shown if Dak Prescott's got time, he's got an untouchable weapon in CeeDee Lamb. I did not like the idea of them reinstating Martavius Bryant. I mean, that's just trying to make the big splash, and I'm just not a fan of it. All right, we have had a great show, but it is time for me to sign off. Don't forget, you can catch me on Smooth R&B 92.1 today from 4 to 5:30 with myself and Thrift Behringer on Sports Visions, as I'll be in the studio. I just want to say thank you to DJ Jones and Thrift Behringer for not only allowing me to be on Sports Visions, but to represent Sports Visions in the Georgia-Missouri game last week. I had such a blast, and I'm proud to be a member of the media. Even though I have a full-time job, I could easily say that I'm a member of the media, and I just love doing this podcast. And I hope you like my Columbus background. I mean, this might be an ongoing thing because it'll give me freedom to just do this podcast anywhere, maybe even in my car. All right, we are out of here, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.